rigid, and you got to play everything with that one finger. So the good thing about the open tuning though is because it's tuned to an open chord right there, you can move that chord up with your slide, and that's another chord. So that's a G major, and this tuning is G, D, G, and then B, and that's root fifth, root major third. So that's a major chord. And if you slide that up to let's say the 5th fret, it's still a major chord, but because you shifted it up, it's now a C instead of a G. Move it up to the 7th, and it's a D. You know, and so on. E, F, G. And that's also great for slide because you don't have to do a lot of muting at first. With the slide, you do muting on your left hand, you do muting on your right hand, and that's to keep certain notes that you don't want to play from ringing out and getting in the way of your melody or your harmony. But when you're playing with an open tuning, you can accidentally leave notes ringing. All those other notes still sound in key. So it doesn't matter where you go. Usually, you know, it gives you a lot more leeway as far as accidentally hitting stray strings and that kind of thing, because it's already tuned to an overall harmony. In a standard tuning slide playing, you have to do a lot more muting with your left hand. So let's say I wanted to do a riff. If I didn't do the muting, it would sound like... You hear all those other notes ringing out, other than when I go... And I'm doing all that muting with my right hand. And so if I'm playing this string, I'm muting the other 3 strings. So really, you only hear one string. And then the next string, I'm doing the same thing. And I've got all those strings muted down here, and that's something you practice slowly, and then eventually you don't have to think about it. So when I'm playing single string lines, you know, at any point I can stop, and I'm just allowing one string to ring open. And that's how you can kind of test yourself when you're learning how to do that. And what you do is whatever string you're plucking, let's say it's this 3rd string, I've got my thumb down here muting the bottom 2, and I've got my pinky muting the top one. So it's only that 3rd string that's allowed to vibrate. So I can strum all 4 strings and you only hear one. If it's the high string, then I've got my thumb muting the bottom 3 strings. If it's the bottom string, I've got my fingers muting the top 3. So you start practicing things, and I think if you want to practice that, then come up with a riff, a real easy riff. You got to start off real slow. And just start on one string, you know. I'm going to take this 2nd string right here, the D string, and just do that riff. But look, again, look at my muting down here. So I'm plucking with my index finger. All my other fingers are muting. They're all busy muting the other strings. I go to the next string and do the same riff. And again, if I wasn't muting, it would sound like... You hear all that other noise in there? And that sounds alright because I'm in open tuning, but if I was in standard tuning, that would sound like a mess because it would just be a bunch of random notes. But there are a lot of other tunings that I use as well. Another tuning you can use for the 4 string, and I'll just tune this to it right now. Again, this is the middle 4 strings of the 6 string guitar pack. And if you tune it to an A for the low string, a C sharp for the 2nd string, and then an E for the 3rd string, and then an A for the top string, the highest string. So that's A, C sharp, E, A. Then you'll have an open A tuning, which is the same notes basically. It's the root the third, the fifth, and the root. It's a different combination of basically the same notes. So you have a major chord again, but now you have the root on the low and on the top. And I call this the Star Spangled Banner tuning. So you can always test it. That's the out-of-tune Star Spangled Banner. I'm not going to do that to our national anthem. I got to tune this thing up. But what this tuning basically does, and it's this is something that I teach on my slide guitar DVD. I've got a DVD over there that's specifically designed to teach you these different alternate tunings, you know, these different open tunings, and to teach you the slide specifically for the 4-string. Because the 4-string, you get to really mess around with tunings, I think. The 3-string, there are a few different tunings that are great, but I generally stick with the open G tuning for the 3-string, which is G, D, G. And that's a nice versatile tuning for the 3-string. But when you get the 4-string in there, that's when you could really have fun with the harmonies and coming up with your own tunings. And so on the 4-string DVD, which I've got, it teaches you minor tunings, it teaches you major tunings, and it teaches you songs to go along with each tuning. So it's not just like, here's the tuning, figure it out. It's like, here's the tuning, and here's a song you can play on it to familiarize yourself with how the different chords and the melodies fit over those particular tunings. And then, you know, this A tuning and the G tuning, they go together in a sense. So if you ever tune to like an open E or an open D on a 6-string guitar, you're basically, the bottom 4 strings are in what's similar to that open G tuning. It's root, 5th, root, 3rd. The top 4 strings are similar to this A tuning. It's root, 3rd, 5th, root. And so you basically have 2 halves of a 6-string guitar in open A tuning, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, you'll have to buy the DVD because I explain it better on the DVD. But you know, this open A tuning, again, A, C sharp, E, A, that lets you do what I basically equate to all those really cool Duane Allman and Elmore James riffs. Which you only get those riffs if you have the root in the bottom and the root on the top. An A and an A. Plus you can do this, which is one of my favorite riffs. So I just end every song like that. If it's a classical music song, I still want to end it like that. I'll get in trouble. That's why I couldn't play classical guitar. I remember I was on my way to get a classical guitar in college, and I just couldn't do it. I had to get a footstool and everything, and grow my nails out and all of that. And that was just too many rules for me. I probably would have learned a lot more, but because the class music instruction is much more strict. I think my homework for the first classical lesson was probably more homework than I had the rest of the year in any other class in school. But